Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
But first, last year it wasn't just Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party which saw an unprecedented surge of support. In January 2015, the Green Party was signing up to 13,000 new members a week across the country. And with the Liberal Democrats' support declining at last year's general election, could the Greens, who came third in the 2012 mayoral election, convert that momentum into a strong showing in the London mayoral and assembly elections? Raphael Sheridan's been taking a look.
The mayoral campaign isn't always glamorous, but despite a rainy day in Enfield, the Green Party candidate Sian Berry was hoping to convince voters to go Green on May the 5th.
So if you want a really radical mayor, you do need to vote Green.
But some just wanted to get out the rain.
Can you leave about cleaner air?
This is the second mayoral election Berry has stood in, having come fourth in 2008.
Yes, do recommend me to all your friends in London.
Oh, well, definitely.
She's upbeat about the current campaign.
It's going really well, actually. We're getting a fantastic response when we take our good ideas out onto the streets and on the doorstep. Today we're talking about our clean air plans. They've been rated 10 out of 10 by the campaigners. My cycling policies got rated 10 out of 10 yesterday.
So, what are the Greens' big ideas in this election? On housing, they will build 200,000 new homes by 2020, half of which will be affordable. On transport, they'll abolish the zonal system on the Underground by 2025, meaning everyone will pay a flat fare to travel anywhere in London. They'll introduce a so-called one ticket so commuters won't pay to switch between buses, tubes and trains. And on air pollution, switching all buses and taxis from diesel to hybrid and electric. 2 weeks ago, the Greens released their manifesto for Londoners. There was a lot on how best to run the capital, but very little on the party's long-term policies, including radical aspirations for a zero or negative growth economy. And some critics believe that this radicalism is bubbling just underneath the surface of the Greens' agenda.
They are aiming to sort of what people might call social engineering. They often seem to be sort of opposed to economic growth, even opposed to sort of industrialisation, opposed to all the things that have actually made most people rich. And they sometimes appear to be basically have the economic views of the 1750s, but with sort of radical 21st century social justice politics mixed in.
Now, a few months before the unexpected rise of Jeremy Corbyn to the leadership of the Labour Party, the Greens also had their own unprecedented rise in the number of members joining. It was something the leadership called the Green Surge. But has that surge now faltered?
The difficulty that the Greens have is, in some ways, their representatives are too nice. They're sort of green at one sense and slightly green in the other. So they can't do the deals, do the hard things, which would sort of go against their and their voters' principles, which you need to do to get into power to have any chance of a really big change to society of the kind they say they want. In the Assembly election and the mayoral election, it is a bit easier for them to make progress. And even there, they don't seem to get very far. 2 seats, seems to be about as far as they really hoped or can seem to get on the Assembly, and that's it.
The Green contingent at City Hall, Assembly members Jenny Jones and Darren Johnson, is standing down. So it's up to Sian Berry to convince Londoners that the Green Party hasn't lost its momentum.
And Sian Berry joins me now in the studio. Sian, let's talk about housing, first of all, because it's such a big issue. You want to build 200,000 homes by 2020. That surely means building on the green belt.
It does not, no. We have lots of public land that we can use. We must keep the principle of brownfield land first, town centres first, for as long as we possibly can. What I've said is the next London plan should not relax the protections for the green belt or metropolitan open land. After that, when we've built 200,000 new homes, we may be short of space, and we'll have to think very hard about whether we do encroach on the green belt or whether we jump over it and start with some new towns and things like that. But for the next 15 years, I think we're OK.
Right, you can sort of guarantee that. You want to prioritise brownfield sites, so does everybody. The point is they're not always appropriate, and some of them, as we know, are highly toxic. Shelter says that most of the brownfield land already has houses on it, so you'd have to look at it before 15 years' time in terms of greenbelt planning.
No, I don't agree. I think there's a lot you can get from also building on top of the homes that we already have. You can do some very creative things with infill. We have an awful lot of car parks in London, which we're not going to be needing in the future because we're going to be driving less. We're going to have better public transport, cheaper public transport under the Green Party. So I think we are OK for this for the next 15 years. And I think relaxing the protections too soon would just lead to greenfield being used first, and that would be wrong.
You've said in your manifesto that about half of the 200,000 homes you want to build will be affordable. But you don't provide a definition, so in a sense it's meaningless. What is affordable for the Greens?
No, we do provide a definition.
Tell us.
Yeah, no, well, Caroline Lucas tried to put an amendment into the Housing and Planning Bill recently. We need to define a living rent.
Right.
In a quite sophisticated way. We need to look at it at a London level. At the moment, we're paying around about half our average salaries are going on the average rent across London.
But what's
and
the
that's
figure?
far too
and
high.
Is it in your manifesto?
People believe that it's around about 30 or 35% is affordable. But I think we need to look into that for London because other living costs are very high, including
Right.
things
Shouldn't
like
that have been in your
transport.
manifesto? Because people will want to know. It gives a sense of certainty.
No, I think we need to do a study properly to work it out. I think
Right.
jumping ahead, just shouting out a number isn't the right answer.
So it's
here.
not there. I mean, when you say you have got an affordable figure, you haven't actually got one as yet.
No, I mean, the same way as we calculate the living wage. And the Greens, I mean, Tony Travers in that video is talking about how we don't do deals. We do deals. We won the living wage unit out of Ken Livingstone. And the living wage unit does that for London. It calculates a different calculation for the living wage for Londoners because we have higher living costs. And I think just saying 35%, it might be too low, it might be too high. And we do need to look into that properly, get some proper economists onto the deal there.
But that will obviously have an impact on the number of affordable homes you can build, depending on what those figures are.
Yeah, and we're talking quite radically about changing the market in housing, actually. I mean, what we need to do is, we can't just keep begging the big developers for more affordable homes because they're very good at getting out of that. Boris and Ken have been trying that for 16 years and getting nowhere. We do
And
need
you
a
think you
different
can do a lot
market.
better?
Yeah, we need to ditch the model that we've got at the moment and build the alternative, which means using the public land that we have, making sure that we work with smaller developers, people who want to build their own homes, cooperatives, housing associations and councils, and build a secondary market where people are buying maybe the bricks and mortar, but not the overheated land prices that we have in London. I think that's a model that could really work and get affordable homes to buy and affordable homes to rent on that land that we have.
All right, let's talk about transport, because in the film it talked about introducing a new one ticket to allow people to change between modes of transport without paying again. How much will that cost?
We think we've spoken to Transport for London about this because all my fare plans have been fully costed up. They estimate that adding a bus journey to every tube journey, which is a good way of making that estimate, would cost around about £200 or £300 million a year in the budget.
Right, how would you pay for that?
Well, overall, including the plan to flatten the fares, bring down the fares in outer London to central London, we think about 10% of the fares budget, the fares income, would be lost that way. And we propose to get that back by increasing the costs for driving in the city. And I think that's only fair at the moment.
So it's very
fare
speculative,
payers,
though, isn't it?
But, well, no, we can bring in a new congestion charge that is smarter and covers the whole city. And it's only fair. At the moment, fare payers contribute 40% of Transport for London's budget. Car drivers only 2.5% through the current very small congestion charge. But the other issue we have to deal with is air pollution. And so I think the congestion charge that covers all of London needs to be combined with an ultra-low emission zone. And that way you make up the money that you lose in fares. And I think that's the right way to go. People who take public transport are doing the right thing. They shouldn't be paying all of Transport for London's budget.
But you would be leaving TfL Transport for London with a £250 million black hole, in essence, and just hoping that more people will use the transport network, fewer people in their cars.
Well, no, because, I mean, our fares policies would come in gradually and we'd bring in the congestion charge in the low emission zone over a couple of years using lots of consultation. And so if anything went wrong in that process, then we could change them. There won't be any black holes. And we're really, really committed to investing more in public transport and walking and cycling and sorting out our town centres. And we don't want that money to be in jeopardy.
Right. I mean, you want to close down City Airport. You talked about air pollution. What do you say to the 2,000 people who work at City Airport?
Well, I think there's a real opportunity with City Airport once Crossrail opens and people can get to Heathrow more easily to shift the flights there, and that would shift the jobs as well. And that would free up 500,000 square metres of space. And the vision you could have for that amount of space in London, I mean, you're talking about the lack of brownfield land. You've got an airport's worth there. We could build a new quarter for the city, homes and businesses. And people in that area are blighted by noise and air pollution. It would make a real difference to their lives too.
Let's talk about the long-term goals as listed on the Green Party website and whether you support them all, because not all of them were in your manifesto. I mean, do you support the idea of a zero growth or even negative growth economy in the long run?
And I think in London, we're inevitably going to grow in London because our population is increasing so much.
So that's not a desirable
the
aim
economy
for
of
you.
London needs to increase. But I think we need to build a more resilient economy. Later today, I'm going to be launching my plans for a bank for London, one that's going to help small businesses to grow, be a space for people to ethically save as well, so that more of Londoners' money stays in the local economy, doesn't fly off to tax havens and all that kind of thing. I think we do need to be building a different kind of economy, but there are plenty of jobs in a green economy.
What about security and crime? The Mayor of London oversees the Metropolitan Police, and one of the policies on the Green Party's website says it should not be a crime simply to belong to an organisation or have sympathy with its aims. So should being a member of ISIS or Al-Qaeda not be a criminal offence?
I think being a member of organisations that are committed to violent terrorism is something that should be illegal.
But that's not what it says on your website.
When it comes to policing in London, we need to be working with communities. We want to rewrite the police's priorities, working with communities to work on what actually is effective against extremism. And I think we've got problems at the moment with certain aspects of policing, certain aspects of surveillance, also the prevent strategy, and we could be doing things far better.
All right, what do you make then of the front page story today that Sadiq Khan, Labour's candidate for mayor, shared a platform with a man convicted of terrorism in 2003? Serious concerns?
These attacks keep on coming against Sadiq, and they all seem to centre on occasions when acting as a local MP or as a human rights lawyer. He's been doing things like, I think the attack today is about a conference that was about the treatment of prisoners in Guantanamo Bay. And we know there was injustice there, and it's about due process and things like that. And I think these attacks, I think they're coming from the Conservative campaign. I don't think they're respectful to London. They're seeking to divide us, and I think that's not the campaign we want to see in London.
Sian Berry, thank you.
I've been getting away with it all my